Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts here from Explore Scientific, and I'm really pleased to have the Virtual Global Star Party, the European edition, with us today. And it's nice for me because I'm not up in the middle of the night. It's o'clock here, Central. We have astronomers across the UK, and we have astronomers across the United States as well. So it's great to have you all here. I'm just going to go into grid mode here so you can see our participants. And we are going to get started. Our keynote speaker for this particular event is Terry Mann, who joined us yesterday on our show to talk about the Astronomical League. Terry is a former two-term president of the Astronomical League, which is, I believe, the largest alliance of astronomy clubs in the world. Is that right, Terry?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you take it away from here. So,
Okay, well, thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Astronomical League and what we are and some of what we do. We have roughly 18,000 members, and they're spread across the US, and we have a few international. We have 10 regions in the United States, and each region has their own conferences, their own awards. Some of them do, actually, some of them don't. We have a lot of awards, observing programs, which I think is probably one of the most impressive things about the league. We have over 70 observing programs. And if you're a league member, with each program that you do, you can earn a certificate and a pin that usually is presented at your astronomy club, or if you're a member at large. A lot of people live in the rural areas or in an area where there aren't that many people or there aren't any astronomy clubs. So they join as an MAL, which is a member at large. And internationally right now, you can join that way. And currently the league is working on putting together a program for the clubs to join. We hope to have that done very soon, so we can have members from all over the world and we can keep in touch this way. We have, like I said, with our observing clubs, especially with all the observers here, if you looked at the league's observing clubs, as I said, we have over 70, and we just approved 5 new imaging programs. And one of the things that just came up this year that was approved is an imaging program. And none of these programs are easy. I mean, they might be for some people when you start at the lower level. I guarantee you, you will always learn something. And we have so many programs that no matter what you're interested in, you're going to find it there. I just about guarantee it. And that's something that you can really work towards, and it helps make you a better observer. And it's really a lot of fun, especially in these times when we're all kind of stuck close to home. And as I said, we have awards that we present every year. We have the Peltier Award, which can be given to just about anybody that has done significant service in astronomy. The Noy Award, which is the National Young Astronomer Award. So we have national young astronomers that are under 19 years of age. And every year we have entries for that, and they show their own projects and what they've been working on. And then they are judged, and 3 of them will usually be at our conference if at all possible. And we have one conference a year, which is called ALCON. It's the Astronomical League Conference. That's how that came about. Ours was canceled naturally this year. It was supposed to be in Albuquerque. We are rescheduled for August next year in Albuquerque. We hope that happens, and we hope to see everybody there too. We have many awards too. If you guys, I don't know if everybody has seen Jack Horkheimer when he was alive. Jack Horkheimer started quite a few awards, which was the Horkheimer Smith, Horkheimer Parker, which was Don Parker, Horkheimer Dioria, Tippy Dioria, winner Star Party fame. We have the Horkheimer O'Meara, Stephen O'Meara. We have Mabel Stearns, which is a newsletter award for clubs. We have webmaster awards for the clubs, and sometimes there are other various awards. With the Astronomical League, every quarter the reflector is published, and that is something else you receive. And in there, you'll find all kinds of items that are going on in all the different regions. And you'll notice all in every issue, you're going to see how many people actually applied for the observing clubs and how many awards were given. It is amazing how many people do this. We have master observers that have done an incredible amount of clubs. We have some members that have done almost every club or every club that the league has. And that is a real challenge. And those people are called master observers, and they have special awards, and they have a special forum. They answer any questions. It's all about learning from each other. So as I said, please consider taking a look at the league. If you have any questions, contact myself or anybody on the league website. And we hope to see you there under the stars.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Terry.
Sure.
It's great. Well, I had planned this whole program through Gary Palmer, and Gary is very involved in the astronomy scene, not only in Europe, but around the world. When I first get to meet him, in fact, I just saw a 3 or 4 year old video that was on Facebook. You know how they give you the, your history, your moments, that kind of thing. Well, Gary and I did a little video together that I posted a long time ago, and I reposted it today. It was just kind of, I don't know, fate that it would come up today and show up. So I guess this must be the anniversary of the Daystar event where we were at that solar astronomy event so many years ago. But Gary's a great friend to astronomers everywhere. I'm honored to know the guy. So I'm going to let you talk a little bit, and then we'll go back to grid mode, and you can introduce all the astronomers here. Okay. So you got this.
Thanks very much, Scott. Thank you, Terry. That was really interesting talk. Tonight's going to be quite interesting. We've got people from all over the world. We've got live observatory in Spain up and running. Hopefully here we're threatened with some clear skies, so that would make a change. I think I've done 3 of these star parties now, and they've all been clouded out or rained out. We've got solar astronomers in, I think it's California, and I think Steve is going to do some, maybe at some point in Canada. But really what this is all about is about having fun and enjoying everything about astronomy. It doesn't matter what your really what your interest or what your side is. It's really about enjoying it and making the most of it. And this is really where all of these talks and the shows have come from, is by joining everybody around the world and really, when we're clouded out, seeing what other people are doing, and also taking a different insight and different people's views or different people's side of astronomy. So it's about enjoying it and about having fun. As I said, we've got quite a few people on. We've got Stephen Malia. He's up in Canada, and apparently he's clouded out. So that's very similar to what we are here on quite a regular basis. He runs Ontario Telescopes, if I've got that correct.
That's correct.
That's correct. And I've known Steve quite a long time. We quite often chat online. He's a volume of knowledge in the industry, and helps people all over the place, not just in Canada. Simon Tang, he's out in California, if I'm correct, and part of Woodland Hills Cameras.
That's the one.
That's the one. Yeah. Hopefully he's going to have some solar for us today. Obviously I can see sunshine in the background there, so it's looking a lot clearer than what it is or has been here for the last few days. We've got Grant, who's part of First Light Optics and also Stargazers Lounge, and is running this remote observatory out in Spain, which is a community-based observatory, so we'll hear a lot more on that later. We've got Jerry, Jerry Hubble. He's, as you all know, is embedded in Explore Scientific in the development of the mounts, and running their online forum for all of the details. We've got Choose Star, yeah, or Choc Star, however you like to pronounce it. I'll get it wrong. He was on the Star Party on Tuesday and had quite a lot of interesting things, certainly from a newer person on this, so we thought we'd invite him back on. And we were hoping it might be clear where he was, but it seems again he's clouded out and it's raining there at the moment. I just need to go into grid view here, yeah, just to see where everybody is. There he is, and there's Karen. He's runs Telescope House, yeah, one of the dealers in the UK. And again, there's a font of knowledge on all of the Bresser and the Explore Scientific equipment. And I've known, again, Karen probably a long time now, about a decade.
Long time now, yeah.
Hate to think how long it is. But we used to do lots of events and different things, and over the years, we've sort of shared lots of knowledge and lots of information on different things. So I'm going to ask Scott was whether you could put the link up for anybody who might be looking in around the world to maybe join the show.
Yes. Okay. All right. So I will put that in the chat. If you would like to join the show, you just have to go to it's explorescientific.com /events, and then you'll see the virtual star party. You buy a $0 ticket. Okay. You'll instantly get an email. They'll give you the credentials to go into our green room, as they call it. Okay. And there you'll meet Kent Martz. You'll need Zoom to log into that. Kent will check your audio and video and make sure you're good to go. And then he'll give you the broadcast credentials for this show. So, and then I'll admit you into the show as you log in. So that's it. So here's the link coming up in chat. And there we go.
Cool. I'm just very quickly checking my system just to see whether we're actually clear outside at the moment. There's still some clouds running through. So, okay. I think we will go over to Grant, because Grant is actually running these images live at the moment from Spain.
Okay.
So it'd be quite interesting to hear about the observatory and what you're doing with it and how everything's going.
Cool. Right, let me share my screen with everybody. Good evening, afternoon, everybody, wherever you are. It's cloudy where I am in the UK, but luckily we have access to a remote setup in Spain, which hopefully you can see on the screen. Get some nods.
Yeah.
Can everyone see that? Excellent. So this has been running whilst we've been setting up in the background. So it's stacked quite a few images now. It's running 10-second exposures just on M13, which is a very nice cluster to look at in Hercules. I'm sure somebody else on the panel will be able to fill in with a bit more detail on the object and how to find it and things like that. But it's a great beginner object. It's a really nice object to have a look at. One of the challenges with M13 is it's very bright. So trying to get a balance on the screen with showing you the size of it and without blowing out the core is a little bit of a challenge. So I think this is the best view I've been able to get so far. But there's some nice detail there. You can see right into the core. And there's a nice little galaxy up here in the corner as well, which hopefully you can all see.
Yeah, that's really good. I can see the propeller, just basically the propeller in the center there.
Well, I was looking at this earlier because that's what I've always called the propeller as well. But I believe other people call a different feature the propeller, which is a dark feature on the sort of outskirts of M13. I don't know what people think to that.
Yes, somebody must have a
Yeah, that's
different.
right. It's a dark propeller shape that is on the not on the outskirts, but it's further out from the
Yeah.
center for sure.
And it's a free arm propeller, is what most people call it. Well, I believe other people
Right.
call it
It's
propeller.
three. That's right. It's three
Yeah.
three blades.
But I've always called that, exactly like you, Gary. I've always called the central sort of X the propeller personally. But there we go. That's one of the differences that we all have with these things.
Lots of so many names, haven't they? That's the thing, and different countries around the world. M45's renowned for having so many names. It's quite hard to keep up with.
I was going to zoom in on this little galaxy up here, but due to the resolution of the system we've got over there, it's not going to help much. You can see it's a bit of a swirly galaxy, but beyond that, it's a bit too small. So we'll leave it running M13 for a little while, but we'll, over the course of the evening, we'll switch between different objects and probably switch to narrowband because the moon's going to be quite bright this evening for the broader band subjects. Do you want me to sort of explain a little bit about what this setup is?
Cool. Yes, please.
So this is, we're calling this the Icarus Observatory project, which is a project between First Light Optics, who I work for, and the Stargazers Lounge Forum. And it's basically an opportunity for us to test equipment that isn't in the UK. As we've seen tonight, the UK is pretty cloudy, unfortunately. And it's also a community project in that we share the data we capture from this publicly. The idea being to give people access to some good quality raw data for them to practice their processing on. And we've been running some sort of tutorials and workshops to help people learn how to process that data with the sort of knowledge that it's a decent quality of data to get them started. And I'm pleased to say just a week ago, we launched the first set of data from this project, which was a big chunk of M16 data, which is the Eagle Nebula. And there's a competition at the moment for processing that data, so it's worth having a look at that. The equipment itself, it's a 10 micron GM1000 mount, and it's a Stellamira 104mm triplet telescope with a Starlight Express 694 camera on the back, which is a very, very nice camera for this type of work. It's very smooth, very sensitive, very low noise. It's been around a while now, but it's a tried and tested camera. We've got a filter wheel, we've got Optolong filters in there. We're running a lakeside autofocuser setup, and pretty much everything is controlled from a High-Tech Astro Mount Hub Pro. So it's really nice to use remotely. And if anybody's interested, I'll happily show how we control it remotely, if there's interest in that. Yeah,
cool.
that's.
It looks very interesting. I was looking on the website earlier today, and there's a lot of information there, and I like the idea that the images are coming out for people in the community to process, and competitions running on it and different things like that. So it's quite hard to get good data. That's really not from satellites. That's the key thing. Anybody can go on and process a Hubble image, but it's quite nice to be able to pick your own targets, really, and then set whatever data comes out from it.
Well, that's exactly it. And we're hoping the community will help us pick targets ongoing. I mean, it's only been going a short while. So at the moment, we're picking the sort of the big hitter targets that we'd like to get through. But, eventually we'd like people to be picking some more unusual targets, perhaps objects that you can't see from the UK because they're just too low down. And we're also having to dedicate some time to some more sort of scientific projects as well. So some occultation work and some variable star work. The community are very interested in that. So we're hoping this will prove a sort of focal point for some of that activity as well.
Cool. That's brilliant. Thanks for that. We'll come back in a little while, and we'll probably look at how you're controlling it and whatever else is going on, whatever else you can manage to capture.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Grant.
Right.
Thanks, Gary.
Right.
Right.
Can you come out? Yeah, there we go. That's it. I can see everybody now.
There we go.
Simon, how's the solar going out there?
It's going pretty good. It's getting a bit windy, so let me just share my screen first. And then I've got some things to show everybody afterwards. But so this is actually live right now on the sun. We're looking at an active region, which is technically on the western side of the limb. I don't know if you guys can see my pointer or my mouse or anything like that,
Yeah.
but so this patch here is actually from a sunspot around about 3 weeks ago. So we had some pretty good activity where there was like a bunch of sunspots and the whole 9 yards. And this is actually the remnants of that same active region. On average, it takes about a week and a half, give or take, for something to go from one side of the sun to the other, and obviously another week and a half to come back round, and it's still active. This one hasn't been classified yet because there's no sunspots, so they're not going to give this thing a classification or an AR number, should I say.
That's quite unusual, because normally, even if they've got an active area there, then they normally get a classification.
Normally, yes, but because it's been so quiet, they only classify the ones that have any significant activity. This is actually on its way out. In fact, probably give it another 2-3 days and this will just literally be nothing. It'll be just gone. There is actually a prominence that is hovering around. So what I'll do is, let me just manipulate the histogram for a second. Ooh, just I need to move this out of the way. So you can actually see that there are proms in the top up there.
Yep, can see that quite clearly.
So let's nudge the scope slightly so we can get it more in the center. So yeah, so that's actually the same active region again. It was quite a big chain that was going round, and this is basically the remnants of what was coming back round. The orientation of the scope is incorrect, so this should actually be like that way, anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, or however you guys want to say it.
90 degrees.
Yeah, to the left.
Yeah.
Now, I do have white light installed on here as well, but there is zip going on. It's almost not worth doing it because it's just literally a white circle.
Yeah, it started to pick up in activity a little bit over the last couple of weeks. So the last 3 weeks seem to have been that chain of active areas that was running across about 10 days ago was quite interesting. Just looking at what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, we are officially in solar cycle 25 now, I believe. So we're coming out of solar minimum, which is a good thing because you got the eclipse coming up in 2024. So as opposed to having something very, very boring on the sun, because the last eclipse we had here in the US, there was actually some like serious activity going on. So it was actually quite fascinating to see all of that. And then hopefully, excuse the noise, the weed whacker guy decided to whack some weed for some weird reason. But yeah, so for 2024, we should actually have some pretty good solar activity. Who knows?
Yeah, it generally picks up quicker. It comes out of a solar minimum a lot faster than it goes into it. So you generally start to see the activity pick up. It'd be interesting to see what happens with this. What equipment are you using on that at the moment?
I actually have a bunch of scopes, but on this particular setup, because seeing is not that great, although it's proving me otherwise right now, I have an Esprit 100 and the Esprit 150 that I normally use for my solar imaging. And then if it's bad seeing, so to speak, I'll use the Explorer Scientific ED80, which is actually what's running the white light right now. I could spin the camera around it in just a moment to show everybody. It's kind of hiding underneath a towel because the sun here is quite harsh. It sounds crazy, but it's all sun out here in California in clear skies, but you can't stand under the sun for more than 30-40 minutes. Otherwise, you will get heat stroke.
Yeah, I could fully understand that.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's looking good. That's excellent.
So hopefully later on when it comes back to me, I'll show you guys a whole bunch of other things. Obviously, this is a live look. I do have processed images of the sun, but we'll hold that for later.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Simon.
No problem.
Okay, I think we're going to have a chat with Karen as he's
Hello, Bob.
nice and quiet.
Okay. And at some point we have door prizes to give out. So we need
Excellent.
to start asking the door prizes. And we actually have some comments also from people observing from around the world in our chat stream here. People in general are happy that we're online. Kind of blown away that I actually did a live stream at 1 a.m. last night. So, let's see. People are happy it's Friday. Says, I'm a member of the local club, the MVAS, and I think I'm a member through the club. Are there any advantages to having an individual membership? This is for Terry. And you're muted, Terry. There we go.
Yeah, I just unmuted me. Actually, you will have the same benefits. It's more beneficial to join a club like the MVAS or any other club because your costs would be cheaper and you have more people, more telescopes to look through. You can learn more. So it's more beneficial if a club joins a league. But you will have the same benefits if you're an MAL or a member of the league through an astronomy club.
Great. We have people. We have Paul watching from New Zealand. We've got people observing from Australia. Paola's observing from Italy. We have people watching from Massachusetts. It is Jorge Alberto from Colombia. Carlos Hernandez, good friend of mine, says, excellent image of the solar surface, Simon. Would the active area be considered a plage? That's for you, Simon.
Sorry, I was just trying to unmute myself there while doing 1,000 things. I'm actually trying to keep my laptop cool because of the heat out here. So there is a couple of differences between all the solar features. You are seeing some type of plage out here on the sun right now. So if I just share my screen real fast.
Okay.
Share. So hopefully you can see this, but the outer part of it here is considered what is the plage.
I see.
And then the inner part here is essentially what the active areas are. Usually I refer to Daystar's website because Jen has gone out of her way to catalog all these different things. So she's identified what the difference is from a filament, the plage. She even has something called Edelman bombs or something like that, which I haven't seen yet because we haven't had that activity. Spicules and things like that. But essentially, yeah, the outer part that looks like a blob almost would be considered where the plage actually is, because I think this stuff inside of there is called something else. I can't remember off the top of my head, which is usually why I refer to her website for all that information.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. All right. Also, Gary, I wanted to let you know that we have the Suhail Ahmedi from Kosovo is joining us, and he is joining us as a special guest. So I thought we'd let you say hello. And then
hello, guys. Hello from Pristina, Kosovo.
Yep.
It's very nice, and I feel very honored to be part of the virtual global star party. So hello, everyone, and thank you.
We're glad to have you on. It's good to get people on from all over the world. That's what it's all about.
Right.
In the meantime, Scott, I don't know whether you wanted to get Jerry to, before we speak with Karen, ask one of these.
Okay. All right. So Jerry, why don't you ask the first question? Now, this first question, the door prize will be a Galileo scope. The Galileo scope is a It is a telescope kit. Okay, this is a Galileo scope here. I guess you can't see it unless I actually put the spotlight on me. So let's do that. This is the Galileo scope. The kit was actually developed in the International Year of Astronomy, 2009, as a cornerstone project to teach students how a telescope works. And so the whole thing, I mean, you have to assemble the objective lenses, the eyepiece assembly, all of that. And, you know, hundreds of thousands of these things have sold to students all over the world. It was developed by educators and scientists. And so it's a great kit. If you do educational outreach, if you're homeschooling right now, okay, which a lot of people are, this is an awesome thing to work with your kids with, to teach them about optics and how a telescope really works. So that's the first door prize. You will need to do two things. You will not answer on live chat the question that Jerry's about to ask you. You will email your question to Kent, and I'm going to write it down here, Kent at explorescientific.com, okay? And you need to join the Explore Alliance. As you can join as a legacy member, which is free. And so, and I'll give you the link for going there too. Probably the best strategy would be answer the question by email first and then go join if you're not a member. But and
yeah, that way you can get it in, right?
Yeah, I would also want to say that these door prizes are all being sponsored by the Astronomical League. So we want to thank them very much for sponsoring that. Okay, so we're going to go to you, Jerry, and let you ask the question, first question.
Yeah, so these questions I'm coming up with today are a little bit different than previous questions if you watch the show. They're going to take some digging and some searching a little bit. The first question is, how many objects are in the Yale Bright Star catalog? If you're not familiar with the Yale Bright Star catalog, it's a fairly old catalog that started from Cambridge
Okay.
in the 1800s, but the Yale Bright Star catalog has a specific number of objects in it. That's the number I'm looking for.
Yale Bright Star catalog.
If you're looking at the chat, I've been putting the questions and the answers in the chat for the Zoom.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Okay. So they're.
So, excellent. What we'll do is we'll move over to Karen.
To Karen?
Hey, how are we?
Very good, thanks. Yourself?
So, I very much like you, Gary. I'm completely clouded out here in the glorious Southwest. We would love to have had some stuff to show everybody today, but I'm just going to share a little picture that I took with what we would have been using, which is up here, which is an Explore Scientific 127 FCD100 Deluxe. This was, he said, sharing screen, taken a few weeks ago. Can you see that yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. So no guesses what this is. This is, of course, Comet Neowise. And this was just a little single shot of about 30 seconds that I took with a Canon 600D on it. Just a quick and, dirty shot in many ways, because my field of view here is quite limited for where the comet was. And just goes to show what you can do with not a huge amount of exposure. You can see quite clearly the green of the head, the cyanides and the synatogens in there, really glowing away in that kind of very, very green color. And you got the first inkling of the ion tail off there as well. in terms of people's experiences of it, Gary, you're based in Wales, which is pretty dark. What were your major thoughts on it?
It was, I think it was fantastic. I mean, I took the children up. It was slightly blocked by my view here because of the elevation.
Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, basically I'm on one side of it, so it had to be the other side of the mountain. So I went further up into the mountains, and just taking the children up there alone, and once you point out where it was, it's fantastic hearing their views and other people. So I ended up a couple of times going up there, and people were pulling up. They were stopping by the side of the road to come and have a look through the telescope. And you're literally in the middle of nowhere. This is a mountain route through to one of the coasts about 40 miles away. And the odd car would come through and they're, oh, are you looking at the comet? Yeah, can we have a look at it? So it created, I think it really put us strongly on the map over the last 6 months. It's one of those sort of major events that suddenly came along and everybody was pulling up at different points throughout the mountain run with a camera, or a tripod or a full telescope set up.
I mean, I remember working back as a very young man at Telescope House in the 1990s, 96, 97, when we had both Hyakutake and obviously Hale-Bopp, and just what it did for people just coming in off the street and just saying, I want a telescope, I've got to see this. And we had to say to a lot of them, actually, you probably see it better in binoculars. But it was, a comet is something that really sort of inspires people. And I've been posting things online on social media, and friends of mine from years back have been saying, you've actually inspired me to go out and do some astronomy. People who aren't normally interested really took great delight in this, and it's just a pity it was over so soon. But that's comets for you. They can't all be Hale-Bopp and linger around for 9 or 10 months pretty well.
No, it's been quite a mixed bag with the summer over here. We've sort of gone through a couple of weeks really hot, a couple of weeks cloudy and rainy, and then another week hot and another couple of weeks cloudy. And this just seemed to jump through a 6-week period where it's like, where's the time gone? I was imaging this, and it was right round by Capella when I first started imaging it. And the next time I got up there, it was massively moved round to the left in such a short space of time over a couple of weeks. But it was really interesting, and even looking at it through binoculars, as you say, it's a fantastic view. But one of the nights I was up there, we had the noctilucent clouds come in. Early hours of the morning, and I have to say, just standing there, looking at the comet with the cloud structures changing in the background and the sky lighting up. It was about sort of 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Breathtaking is the only way that.
A question that's out there, guys, is somebody wanted to know if you were using an IR filter for this image.
For this particular one, I was using a Barda or Beta IR filter. It's not a tremendously harsh filter or anything like that. It was just trying to clean things up a little bit, but nothing really exotic on this one. And that was the beauty of this comet, in that you didn't need huge, expensive pieces of equipment to image it well. Some of the best and the most inspiring pictures that I've seen of it were taken with very, very wide field shots. And I think this probably has to be the most photographed comet of all time, because of the amount of people that are now wandering around with digital cameras that can very, very easily pick up stuff like this. So it's it was very inspiring to see. Obviously, you never know with comets, as we all know. We've been there a few times before. Some of us have been observing for longer than others, and will remember some particularly sort of disappointing situations with certain things that didn't quite deliver. The first comet that I remember seeing in any great detail at all wasn't Halley, actually. Embarrassingly enough, for doing the job that I do now, my mother and I went out night after night trying to find it, but at that particular period of time, my sky knowledge was not as good as it is now, and it wasn't particularly bright for us. It wasn't well seen in the Northern Hemisphere, certainly. It was much better for those, I think, the Southern Hemisphere, in terms of that apparition. Lord knows what it's going to be like into 2061. Probably not any better than that, actually. But I think I'm right in saying that the apparition after that, none of us are going to be around for, is going to be an absolute belter. I think it's going to be something to see. But sadly, ambitions that I have to live forever aside, we're not going to see it. And that's the beauty of these things. They carry on. We have our own little period of time where we can just see these things for a very brief period. They'll come back around sooner or later, and it's just a privilege to be able to see them when you can.
Yeah, I think with this, I think its orbit something like 1600 years linear-wise. It's a long period orbit, and that it just sort of makes you sit back and appreciate that you did get the chance to see it.
Yeah.
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 But there was one picked up in Soho the other day. I think it was about 2 days ago that I saw one picked up in Soho, and that one's already burnt up. It's gone.
Oh, right. That was the Kreutz, the sun grazer, wasn't it? That it was looking like it might make it, but didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the last reports, I just saw that there was a bit of a tail visible, and that was it. But anyway, thanks very much, Kevin. We'll come back to you a little bit later. What I was going to do was, we've got Suhail, from Kosovo on.
Yeah.
What I was going to do is find out a little bit about Suhail, and hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, it's S-U-H-E-L. It's Suhail.
Excellent.
And believe it or not, it means a star. So it's...
My daughter's name's Seren in Welsh, and that means star.
That's very nice.
Cool. So I can see you're part of the Astronomy Club of Kosovo.
Yes. So we are one of the first astronomy clubs in Kosovo, founded in 2014. So we basically started with one telescopes and doing like public outreach and like finding other people who love astronomy. And since then, we've been really getting bigger day by day, because in Kosovo, we have a lot of lacks in the field of science and astronomy. So our group is made of young people that love astronomy and want to share the wonders of the universe with all the people here, because astronomy is not very much developed in Kosovo. So we're trying to go to schools, going to different cities, so just offering the people the view through the telescope. And so it's very nice to see that how it used to be before. We've been really going forward with the help of so many international friends, international astronomers that are helping us with information, with equipments, so we can use them here in Kosovo and show the audience, the people, the wonders of the universe.
That's excellent. That's really what this is all about, isn't it?
Yes, and what's very important is that Kosovo doesn't have an observatory. So there's a really small observatory in the city, which was functional in the 80s. Since that time, it was never used. So we want to renovate that observatory and make it like as our headquarters, because a lot of people are asking us if you have like an office or something. So maybe that can be our center, so more people can come and observe the stars, the planets with our through the observatory, which we got it from the mayor, and with like seeking donations so we can open it as soon as possible for the public. So, and then of course the people will come and see how it feels like to go inside an observatory.
That's excellent. That's
Yes.
that's really what this is all about, isn't it? It's bringing it to astronomy to a different audience, and obviously in different parts of the world, you know, they've had tougher times than other parts, so it's harder. And I fully understand how difficult it is to build that sort of thing off of the floor with not a lot of support from maybe internally in the country.
Yes, and we wouldn't be here where we are right now if it wasn't from our international astronomers that are helping Kosovo towards science with equipments like Explore Scientific, Bresser, and other popular brands that are supporting Kosovo in this direction. And it's really bad because like a lot of schools in Kosovo probably have telescopes, but they don't know how to use them. So we're going to schools, teaching the teachers, the students, how to use the telescope. So showing the practical way of astronomy, because they talk a lot about astronomy, but it's very nice if they also see it. So that's what we're trying to do. And until now, we've been having a lot of help, a lot of support. And that's very nice because, as I told you, we started very small. And I have this expression, which the journey of the 1,000 light years begins with a single step. So we start small, then just like the Big Bang, we started very small, so we aim to get really big.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Can you, in the chat on here, can you share your contact information? Yeah.
Yes.
If you look down the bottom of the screen here, there's a little chat box. Yeah, and you can type that in here. I think Jerry's asked for it.
Okay, for the chat for everyone.
Yeah, down there. That's it.
Okay.
At the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm using my phone right now. Thank you.
Copy that also for the chat out to our general audience if you'd like to be contacted worldwide. There was a question, someone wanted to know what light pollution was like in Kosovo. Is it a big challenge?
Scott, you were asking about the light pollution in Kosovo.
Yes, yeah, that was our audience.
So we actually, there are some places in Kosovo that you can go far away from lights, like mostly in the west region of Kosovo. So Kosovo doesn't have a sea, but we have really great mountains. So we have some really good places for astronomy observations. So in the Balkans, where we are, because Kosovo is located with Albania, Macedonia, Serbia, and Montenegro. And this region where we are, it is declared as one of the really nice regions for observations. And yes, there are some, but this observatory that we are trying to open is located in the center in Pristina, and it's really not in a good location because it has light pollution. But it's very accessible to the citizens, to the people, so they know where we are. And what we're actually trying to do now is we're trying to build a new observatory. We're part of the Astronomy Commission, which is part of the Ministry of Education. So we made this strategy, and we're still with some experts in Kosovo. We're locating the best position for an observatory. Of course, that's going to take a really long time, but it's a great step forward.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Cool. I'm pretty sure that I know a few people that are involved with the Astronomy Club anyway. I certainly know a few people that have I've seen on TV or I've seen on in other places. Excellent. So anyway, I've been asked a question over this side. For some reason, they can't ask the question online, but I've been asked the question by Paul, and it says, how will Elon Musk's Starlink affect astrophotography in the future? Thank you. So what does everybody think? Steve, you're welcome to answer if you think.
Thank you. I'm of the opinion that it's a little bit overblown, and it's not going to have too much of an effect on astrophotography. Where I am in Canada, there's been a couple of flybys of the Starlink satellites, and they're pretty impressive to see, and kind of neat because it's something you normally wouldn't see go by. But with the different types of stacking methods and the software that we use now, because it's such a short duration, right? The software is pretty slick, where it will take that erroneous signal might be on one or two different frames, and delete it, and it'll remove it from the overall stacked image. So I think it's a lot of hype. I think a lot of people are taking it a little bit too far, and don't are making too much of a big deal out of it. I don't think it's going to affect astrophotography in imaging that much. There are thousands of satellites up there right now, thousands, right? Yeah. And I can image all night, and half my frames will have something going through it. To me, it doesn't matter. Throw them into the batch preprocessor, stack them up, bring it out, and they're all gone, as if they weren't even there. So I really think it's something that we have other things we can worry about for astrophotography, like light pollution. We could put more effort and energy into that than we can into the Starlink project. And it really, the reality is, it's not going away. No. Right? It's there. There's other satellites going up, similar projects. So with modern stacking techniques now and algorithms, I really don't think it's going to be an issue for anyone.
I'm going to make a point here. I think a lot of people are overhyping it, and I've seen quite a lot of pictures now where somebody has gone out of their way to create a mosaic of the Starlink streaking past, and they're basically making the point that, oh my gosh, this is going to be a problem. So let me make sure you guys can understand this at home. Is if you look at something like an Iridium flare, the International Space Station, or any other satellite out there that is moving, in order for you to be able to see it, it must catch the reflection of the sun. So if you're in the nighttime, the chance of you catching the sun when it's in low Earth orbit is less likely, unless the sun was coming in at a lower angle, so to speak. So I kind of feel that the astronomy community in some ways have been so unfair to SpaceX with the Starlink satellite. Incidentally, once they reach their actual orbit, they become geostationary, from what I'm aware of, because remember, they're trying to provide internet service to one specific area. The problem here is if this satellite is moving around, this area of coverage moves, so they have to be geostationary. So if you guys are into this, if you look into the southern sky, you'll get all the geostationary satellites in one big long arc, from my perspective at least anyway, because I use these satellites. So Galaxy 17 is a prime example. It is always in the same place, and if you took a picture of it, you wouldn't know what it was. You would just assume it's another star. So I think the biggest complaint that people are really having is they're seeing moving objects and they're mistaking it as Starlink, when in reality, I don't think it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to agree with what Steve was saying about being able to process a lot of this out now. And exactly what you're saying, once they get up to their set orbit, then they're going to be less visible. I think yes, there are an amount of them, and I think when the bad press really started on them a couple of months back, it was just after they'd been launched and when they're doing the testing, so they're running around that low Earth orbit. But certainly running Sigma clipping in a lot of the software is removing them. I mean, we did a test on it and removed up to 50 satellites out using Sigma clipping. So once they get fainter, I think there'd be less of a problem.
I mean, for those people who shoot Orion, if you shoot it early during the evening when it's low in the sky, whether you like it or not, there are satellites that just whiz right through it all night for at least a good 2 hours. But once it gets high enough, suddenly all that traffic stops. It's like somebody just shut the freeway down and there's no more cars allowed to go. So it's people's perspective of the whole thing. And to be totally honest, this is another part of astronomy that I've started to get into. May not be so astronomy than anything else, but I started to chase the International Space Station in any shape or form possible, whether it is just as a regular visible pass or through a transit or anything like that. And it's actually fun to find all these little random objects out there that are very, very faint. And then you have like your scope point at it and you're just waiting there for something to go, there it is. Yeah. So it's another thing to do, to be totally honest, and it's not a bad thing.
There's a couple of comments about this already. We have someone that is saying that they don't believe that they are going to geostationary orbit at this time. But Mike Wiesner points out that the American Astronomical Society published a study report earlier this week on metaconstellations. Eventually, with tens of thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit, a satellite will cross the field of view of a telescope every 30 seconds. The bottom line of the study was that that astrophotography will be dramatically impacted. That is, that may be true for the moment, but you know what, Mike? I think that amateur astronomers are so ingenious in getting around that they will figure it out. Somebody will develop software. Who knows? Maybe Elon Musk will actually provide software himself that will be free of charge for any astrophotographer out there to illuminate, the satellites in the field of view. It may be a problem for professional astronomers as well, but again, we'll figure out a way.
I think that's true. I think this is a static way of looking at things, as if you create a problem and it's never going to be fixed. I mean, that's just a bad way of looking at anything. Yes, it's a problem. There's an issue that's raised, but again, the other thing you got to consider is the benefit of these satellites. What it's going to do for the world, bringing internet access to people that don't have it. And to think about amateur astronomers that are out there in the middle of nowhere that would like to be able to connect to the internet.
That's true.
And but people will develop techniques, and there are already techniques for doing this, like we've talked about. You do a median combine on your stack, and it gets rid of all. We already deal with hot pixels, which are as much of a nuisance as the Starlink satellites might be. So.
Yeah. What's the Astronomical League discussed on any of this, Terry?
I really haven't heard an official statement from the Astronomical League about that. I'm sure we've seen pictures from astrophotographers that had talked about that weren't happy, and others that actually worked around it. I don't know if it was through software or what, but we've kind of seen a little bit of both sides of it. So, we just kind of waiting to see what happens, because who knows, there might be software that can easily take care of that. That would be my hope. Yeah.
So far we've managed with basic integration to remove quite a lot of them. But I did see a picture of Comet Neowise recently with the whole array of Starlink going past it. and I wasn't actually sure whether it was real or whether it was photoshopped in to make a point, but it did look a bit too well placed with
Yeah,
the lights
I
going
saw
across.
that. I saw that image, Gary, and the guy just took he did the opposite of what we do. He stacked all the Starlink images together, so it looked like there was a lot of stuff on that one image, you know. So, but you'd
Just to
never
make it.
see that in real life.
Huh?
Cool. So
A question about this from Brett Blake to Jerry is, well, if someone is trying to find and map out minor planets, sets might be a problem. What do you think?
So the way you typically do minor planet measurements is you take, like you said, sets of maybe 3 images of each minor planet over a 1 or 2 hour period, and you're spacing the images. But again, satellites are intermittent. They don't last, they don't stay there long at all. But your minor planet's going to move slowly across the sky. So you should be able to still, unless the satellite crossed right in front, you occult, if it occulted the asteroid, you'd be darn lucky to catch it. You may see a satellite merge with an asteroid in terms of the photograph. It may not occult it, but you may see it come close. So one image, you might have the satellite next to the asteroid where you may not be able to measure it accurately. That would be the worst of it, I think. But I don't think it's very likely that you would have that very often. So in terms of measuring asteroid positions, it's like anything else. You can work around it, and the opportunity. One other thing is, like Simon said, these things only occur, right after sunset or right before sunrise, because the angle of the sun to the orbit of the satellites, and it reflects down into for us to see it. And most of the night, you're not gonna be able to see these. Plus, they're putting sunshades on these things to make them as dim as they can, even during those times of, you know, right before sunrise and right after sunset. So I think the problem's going to kind of go away after a while. Once the system gets online and people see the benefit of it, I think you'll start, and then astronomers will work out the tools needed to mitigate the problem. It'll be
Yeah.
like the Y2K problem back in 2000. It'll be all about nothing, It's like,
making us all feel old now.
So he has ISS transit image that he can show related. Simon, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, so let me unmute myself. Where is the share screen button? There it is. So I am going to share my desktop. So you're going to see absolutely all of my junk lying around. And I'm going to quickly show everybody what I actually saw during the actual during the eclipse. Let me just make sure I get the JPEG, otherwise this will take forever to load up. So, okay, here we go. So hopefully we'll be able to flick through these. So this was actually in 2012. Was it 2017? Sorry, 2017 or whenever the eclipse was. I've forgotten already. I should know this by now. All right, so that's not a fly that's coming into view. That is the International Space Station. And as you can see, it just clips the edge of the moon. Cool. And then comes popping back out the other side. So hopefully you guys can see that.
Yeah.
So again, I understand what the premise is and the gripe with all of these things are with having satellites whizzing around, but in reality, cool things like this could never happen if we didn't have all these satellites and things up there. And it's actually kind of fun watching some of this stuff go whizzing by, because the chances are you will see the International Space Station cross over at some point at night, and you don't pay any attention to it, and you don't think anything more. Oh, it's a plane, it's a meteorite, or something. But reality is it's actually the International Space Station that goes whizzing past, and there are astronauts on board. I mean, we're up there. So I kind of feel like some people who turn around and say that all these satellites going up into space, and we've got 10,000 plus satellites up there that are going to ruin the night sky. But to be honest, it's part of all of this, is the way I see it.
Yep. A comment is, he says, it's fine now, but when Starlink has 30,000 satellites in their constellation, and Jeff Bezos has his 30,000, and OneWeb has their 40,000, and China has their 30,000, I'll predict it'll be worse for ground-based scientific astronomy than you guys are thinking. But, you know, these are just still tens of thousands of objects versus many millions of objects that are up there.
You know, the other thing here is, though, it's the relative size of all of these satellites that are being launched. They're not all sizes of a school bus or a semi-truck. A lot of them are the size of a suitcase, because they have all these microsatellites and CubeSats that they've started to launch. They're so incredibly small. And in all honesty, if you've got an 80mm scope or a small reflector, the chances are you don't have the resolving capability to even see them when they're that small.
And the other thing is, it's not a static problem. Again, by the time we get to 30,000 satellites up there, they'll be thinking hard about the impact once there's 150,000, and there'll be a fix for it. There'll be some change, something they'll change. They'll either decide we don't need that many satellites, and these other companies will go out of business. We'll start sharing things better. You know, it's hard to say what's going to happen 20 years from now in terms of these satellites. You know,
there's already 15,000 objects up there now. You know, so that are being tracked.
What was the name of that really expensive black paint you were on about the other day, Scott? The one for the insides of the telescopes.
Oh, I've actually seen that stuff, by the way. It's really freaky. I kid you not. If you're looking at my black t-shirt, I am not exaggerating. This stuff, when you look at it, you have no depth perception. If you put a little white dot on there, you have no idea how close it is. If you bring it towards your face or move it away, it's just this white dot that hovers in absolute invisible blackness. It's crazy.
May I add something here?
It's Vanta Black. It's Vanta Black.
So the first time I saw anything like that was when I was working at Mead Instruments, and it was Lockheed had come out with it, and it was called Lockheed Black, and it came in this special gem jar and everything, you know, and it was delivered in a special package. Pretty impressive delivery. And Lockheed wanted to spray or to treat the interior of the Mead Instruments tubes, the Schmidt-Cassegrains grains. I have no doubt it would have increased contrast dramatically in the telescopes, but the cost to, you know, to put it in there was way out of line for what you know would have made it cost effective, and we couldn't have made it just a deal where we would do it by special order, you know, because Lockheed wanted to do our entire inventory. So,
hey Scott, you can almost say the prices are astronomical.
Astronomical. Satellite.
It reminds me of it reminds me of the rockumentary from 1984 with Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
It's so black. It's
so
like
guys, something really funny actually happened in Kosovo with the Starlink satellites, because like people were thinking they are UFOs, because you know it's the way they travel is very interesting. So then I made this post telling that it's not UFOs, it's Starlink, the satellites from SpaceX. So I have all this like media calling me for interviews and for like, it just was like everybody was scared, like UFOs are invading, and this is that people like need to research and read more, because it was very interesting here in Kosovo.
Cool.
Okay.
I think that Ellen, we should all start tweeting Ellen to buy out the company that makes this Vanta Black. Yeah, and then he can apply it to these satellites, and that will solve the problem.
Yes. Well, if you get a guy like Banksy with some Vanta Black, he can make these holes in the sides of buildings that people would just walk into. So sudden stop. So anyhow, we are about 15 minutes away from our 10-minute break. Okay. We should probably go with question number 2, Jerry. And let's see. Let me copy it.
Okay, let me see. So these questions are gonna seem off the wall a little bit. They're gonna take a little bit of work to find if you're not familiar with, but I give you some hints on how to find stuff. So this specific question.
Another warning, do not post your answer in the chat, okay?
No.
You can't win by posting the answer in the chat, and you're giving away the answer to all of your competition, okay? Because the first one to answer it in email to kent@explorescientific.com and become a member of the Explore Alliance is the winner, okay? So we are going to give away another Galileo scope, okay? And we have more. So what is the question?
All right, so the International Astronomical Union Minor Planet Center certifies observatory locations and assigns a code to each of these observatories. So when they do observations, when they submit their data, they know where it's coming from. All right. So if you look for list of MPC observatory codes in Google or other search engine, what is the name of the observatory assigned the code W54? Whiskey 54. It's W54. What observatory is that code assigned to?
Okay. And I am putting that up in the chat as well, and where you need to answer it to. So there you go.
What was the prize for that one, Scott?
That is going to be another Galileo scope.
Ah, cool.
And then I'm going to get store prizes, but it's another Galileo scope. I'll have you guys know that Gary Palmer has proven that this is a high performance astrograph as well, as he has already made. He's made an image of the moon with it, you know, a nice astronomical imaging camera. So very versatile instrument, has a 1/4-20 hole here for mounting onto a tripod if you'd like. You could make, there's a number of ways to use this telescope, and you can go to galileoscope.com to learn more. So, I'm happy to say that Explore Scientific is currently the official maker of the Galileo scope. So where are we going to now, Gary?
I think we might have a quick look and see what Grant has got coming in, because he said a little while ago that he was building another image up. I think he said the Pickering's triangle, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I think I muted you. I'm sorry, Grant. Hold on for a second. Let me unmute you. Pardon.
There we go.
Are you unmuted? There you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we switch over to a hydrogen alpha filter for this one, running 30-second subs. We're up to 84 of them, so we've got a reasonable amount coming in there, and some nice detail coming through. So this is Pickering's triangle. Some nice detail coming out there, and
that's looking pretty good for very short subs.
Yeah, very limited subs, but it's yeah, coming through quite nice and cleanly. So I'm going to save the data as well and see if we can have a play around with it offline afterwards, and perhaps share around what we've kind of got whilst the show's been going on.
Excellent, that's good fun.
A photograph that you can share of what the telescope looks like, what the gear looks like?
Yeah, I can dig one out.
Okay.
Bear with me.
While Grant is looking for that, there was a question for Terry Mann about, they want to know what kind of guide scope or what you're using to connect your guide scope to your DSLR.
Yeah, I'm using an L bracket on my camera. And then what I have done is, this is a ZWO 30 millimeter spotting or guide scope. What I have done is taken like a quick release bracket and screwed the guide scope back onto the bracket. And then I put the bracket, I slide it down on the L bracket for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have an email from him. I will send him pictures close up so he can see what I have done.
Perfect. Okay.
Connect that.
That's good. All right. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I'm going to have to stop share and share a different screen, so I don't have a picture on the remote machine. So bear with me just a tick. So can you see that?
There we go. Beautiful instrument. Look at that.
So it's quite a modest setup, and that was one of the ideas. We didn't want to put stuff that was sort of out of reach of sort of regular astronomers. We wanted something representative of what the community would typically use, or it's intermediate, higher end, but still it's certainly within reach. And there she is over in Spain as we speak.
In Spain. There we go. And collecting photons through a narrowband filter. Is that correct?
Yes, at the moment it's got a hydrogen alpha filter in place. You can see in that image there, it's showing it closed down with a flip flap, which is an Optech product, and that not only protects the telescope during the day, but also uses it as a flat panel for taking flats for calibration purposes. So that's a really handy little device on the front of it.
What's it called? A flip flap? I'd really like to get something like that for our observatory.
Yeah, Optech. So it's an American company. Optech make them a flip flat. They do all sorts of sizes, and it's an incredibly handy device. Both for protecting the scope and also taking your flats remotely. And I have to say the guys over in the remote observatory do a very nice wiring job, much better than my rig normally looks like. So it works very well.
Excellent.
Stop sharing that.
Excellent. All right. And we got about 10 more minutes before we go to our break.
I was just going to say, if anyone has any requests for objects, I'm happy to move the scope around wherever and leave it to build up on the next target.
Okay, I'll ask the audience here. Object requests, imaging requests for the observatory in Spain. So everybody's going to have to get out their planners and go, what's up in Spain right now? Yep, excellent.
Excellent.
And afterwards, we're going to give away some 52-degree eyepieces for the door prizes. So we got a couple of those as well. So
cool. So I think we've got a few minutes. Why don't we run over to Chops, because we haven't had a chat with Chops yet, and see what he's been up to over the last few days since the last star party.
Yes, he's been very patient here with us. So,
hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. I was hoping to get some imaging, but the weather's not really helping us in that department. So let me share my screen and I can show you guys.
It looks like you're up on the International Space Station.
Yep.
Just hanging on a solar panel or something.
Yeah, that space weather is tough sometimes.
It's hard to. Yeah.
The solar storms.
Yes.
I'm just about managing it. I'm surviving.
Yes, that's good.
So if you can see my screen, this is M57, which is what I was working on yesterday. I didn't get much data. I got 12 subs. So these are just stacked. I haven't actually edited any of the images. And then again, I've just been playing around with old images that I've had previously.
M31. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And again, this one, I was
do you take balcony?
PSS.
How do you grab these, Chocks?
From my back garden or the front garden, there's a couple that I went to a dark site a few weeks ago. Which one was it? Do I have it open? Yes, M27, which was 13 lights. No darks or flats or anything else, all stacked in Cyril. So as I've only started over the last 4 months of hitting deep sky objects and photography in general, I'm still sort of finding my way around and seeing what's in the sky, seeing what's available.
Remind
did
everybody
start-
how long you've been doing this, Chucks. Tell people how long you've been doing this.
So 5 months in total, including photography, because I didn't even know how to use the camera actually. And then I started with trying to test it all out on the moon, because the moon was quite a nice object to get into. That's when I ordered the scope and the mount and started getting into astrophotography. I think I might have spoken to Grant at First Light Optics a few times when I had issues with my XS 100. Many email exchanges with him and Rob, I think, was it? And then carrying on with the Lunar. This is with the scope that I bought. It's only a budget scope. It was a Skywatcher 102T. And then I've got the Exos 2 GT mount. And I use Nina to do all of my processing in the evenings. I've been looking at, this is one I edited a little bit in GIMP with just a few levels and curves. Nothing spectacular. But that's the next part of the journey that I'm trying to get onto.
That's not that I wouldn't say that's not bad. That's great. 4 months, 5 months in, that's awesome.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah, cheers.
Good.
Compared to some of the other ones I've seen, it's okay. But yeah, no, I was pleased with that one. That was in a Portal 4 area.
Wonderful. Wow, look at all the stars, man.
I think that early images, we all look back at them, you know, when you've been doing this a long time. And you might go, yeah, we've improved massively, or, you know, we've totally changed our equipment and our view on where we're going in astronomy. But you still look back on those. And I look back on a lot of my early stuff and go, well, yeah, it's not as good as what I can do now, but I learned a lot from doing that. And that's part of the process. These images will build that process up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first time I saw a nebula come on screen, I was like, you know, jumping up and down with joy. I was like, look, I've got it. It was M51, I think, the first one I ever tried to get. And when it finally got there and everything clicked, yeah, it's a different experience.
That's it. That's what it's about.
Yeah. But no, it's been a really good journey. There's been lots of people helping and guiding me along, and it's been a really good community to get involved with, you know. So yeah, no, really grateful for all the help that I've received.
You know, I'm going to make a quick comment for those people out there who have just gotten into doing astrophotography. Is try not to compare yourself to some of the other people that are out there, because it can be discouraging. I mean, Chox just hit the nail on the head when he said when he first got that nebula and he's jumping up and down saying, I got it. I mean, that to me is what astronomy has always been about. It's about discovery. It's not about that guy's got a better picture than me and I'm going to try and beat that person. It's that journey of discovering something. So usually when I talk to people and say to people, why do I do what I do, is I like to make the invisible visible. That's what it's about. And very rarely do you find me doing any kind of long exposure. I mean, I'll do 20 minutes and I'll move on because I just want to see something. And that's the general premise of what everybody who's around me, when I do outreaches or star parties, they want to see it. And when they see the Pillars of Creation, for example, in the Eagle Nebula for the first time, and I said, you can do this as well. It's not as hard as it looks. I might make it look complicated. It really isn't. And Chox, you know, is a prime example of the inspiration that some of you out there probably need. Is don't compare yourselves to, you know, some of the great people out there that do this. Compare yourself to someone like Chox and say, I can do this as well.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. That was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
Yeah. Um, Simon, there was a question. They wanted, Chuck Lewis wants to know what filters are you using for solar imaging?
Right now is a hydrogen alpha filter. I'm going to make this very clear. This is not the same hydrogen alpha filter that you get for nighttime astronomy. They are completely different. This particular one is actually made by a company called Daystar. In fact, since the angle is good, it's actually right there hanging out. It looks like a little man hanging off of my scope upside down, because it's got two little beady eyes sticking out, and his mouth is kind of filled with spaghetti or something, I guess. So that's the filter, or the blocking filter, should I call it, is actually, that's the one that I'm using. So the Explorer Scientific scope, you can't really see it because it's actually underneath a towel, because I've got to keep the sun off of this, because like I said, the sun here is brutal. That's got a solar wedge or a white light filter, and that's pretty safe to use to a certain extent, and it's a great way to get started. They're really inexpensive. There's different types you can get, the ones that are front mounted, you can get the ones that are rear mounted, so forth and so on.
Okay, great. Well, Gary, do you have any comments before we go to break here?
No, I think I'm looking like I've got some stars visible here, so I'm going to see whether in our break we can fire the system up. It's all sitting there waiting, so providing it's not filled up with water and the gaps that come along afterwards, we're going to have a quick look and see whether we can fire that up. But thanks to everybody so far who's been contributing and commenting online. Even though I can't read all of the comments, I will certainly have a look back at them later on.
I'm pretty much the guy doing that. I will tell you, Grant, that some of the image requests, and you can pick any one of these, but since you asked, Brett Blake came back with IC1101. He said, but it's really, really faint. He says, I'll get it though, one way or the other. Another request for, I can't read it because it's red type up there, but it says Crescent Nebula, question mark, or NGC 6888.
Crescent. Yeah, that's a crescent.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because that's our next data release is on 80 hours worth of crescent data, which Gary's having a look at the moment. So that's an interesting one. I was hoping someone would say the Pelican Nebula, because that's what I've gone to, but I'll have a go at IC 101.
All right. Michael Whitaker says NGC 1275 for CSA. Elliot Neal, who's here in Northwest Arkansas, he says, any shots of globular star cluster M15? So I don't see any others at this point, but I'll let you cogitate on that, Grant. And if none of those are in the cards, then of course it's astronomer's choice too. So right. So we are going to go to break. Give us 10 minutes and we'll be back.
Hey Scott, before we run off to the break, do you want to leave my solar up live so they can watch that?
Oh, we could do that, sure.
While the place blows away.
Yeah. We have 10 minutes of solar. That would be fine.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share my screen. So yeah, off we go.
Awesome. Okay. We'll see you in about 10.
Hey, Scott. Scott.
Yeah. Yes.
So I've got some processed images of the sun literally from just now. So we've got some of those, and like I said, I've got tons and tons of pictures.
Great. Okay.
So I don't know if you guys are squeezing for content, as in pictures, that is. I think there's plenty of content with this talk.
Well, we can show those. Nicholas wrote, yeah. They can hear me. They can hear us in the broadcast right now.
Oh,
He
they
says,
can?
"Say our party's winners, please." Yes, Nicholas, don't worry, we will. We're way ahead of you.
Wait, you're not going to tell one of your stories in the background now?
One of my stories. What kind of story? You know, that's the question.
You know what, I'll tell you. Okay, so when you were talking about stories on the last star party, when you went for your break, I was listening to one of the ones that you were telling, and I've heard that one before. But my favorite one you've ever told me is that Meade scope that had the serial number and why you serialize every single one of your Explorer Scientific scopes. Do you know which story I'm talking about?
I recall.
It's the Meade 8-inch scope that was cursed or something, and people said they could see UFOs with it or something crazy along those lines.
Yes, you're talking about the Heaven's Gate story.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
my favorite. That is my favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story because during Comet Hale-Bopp, there was a cult organization that was headed up by a guy named Marshall Applewhite, and Marshall Applewhite was a fan of a radio program that was produced by Art Bell, and it was broadcast. I think it's still on the air today. Art Bell's program. I don't know if Art Bell's still with us or not, but an amateur astronomer who used a Meade 10-inch LX200 telescope had photographed Comet Hale-Bopp, and in the tail, through the tail, there were white dots. Okay, now most amateur astronomers would recognize those white dots as being background stars, right? Because the tail of the comet was somewhat transparent. But he shared this image through his 10-inch LX200 with Art Bell, and Art Bell immediately said, "Well, those must be companions to the comet, you know." And I'm not so certain that Art Bell was much of an astronomer, but he did talk about UFOs and paranormal stuff a lot. Okay, and so, anyways, the amateur astronomy community busily got to work with identifying these background stars. But another guy that was listening to this show was Marshall Applewhite. He was a fan of Art Bell, and he then recognized something different, that the companions were coming for the Heaven's Gate members, and that this was the sign that he had been looking for. And so he sent two individuals that were wearing apparently the kind of more or less strange clothing that the Heaven's Gate members wore into Oceanside Photo and Telescope, OPT, at this time, and they bought a Meade 10-inch LX200 so they could inspect this for themselves. And so they bought it with the Heaven's Gate credit card. Back then, credit cards were swiped. They were actually put into a machine, so they left an imprint of the credit card itself. They purchased the telescope. They took it out to their California desert location, and after a while of using it, I guess just within a week or so of using it, they returned it, and they said that we'd like to return this telescope. Of course, the staff said, "Well, why do you want to return it?" And they said, "Well, we can't see the companions. And so by this time they had all these stars identified, okay, in the background, and they showed these two members of Heaven's Gate that these were not companions, that they were background stars. You know, the amateur astronomers had plate solved the field, okay, back then. This is before plate solving was really that popular with amateur astronomers, but they had done it. And it seemed that the two individuals who were returning it recognized that, oh, okay, they're background stars. And they said, well, we'd still like to return the telescope, okay? And the scope was like brand new, you know, and so OPT had returned the telescope back to Meade Instruments to get it reboxed. You know, they wanted to have professional packaging. They wanted to check it out because they were going to sell it again. And so normally what would happen is we'd rebox that telescope and we would ship it right back to them. Okay. In the meantime, what happens is that the Marshall Applewhite and the entire Heaven's Gate group committed suicide. Okay. The telescope was sent to Meade Instruments. Meade Instruments, instead of returning it back to OPT, like they should have, and this goes back to serial numbers not being tracked very well, okay? OPT or Meade Instruments accidentally shipped it back out to a customer, a dealer, an unknown dealer. We don't know where it went, okay? In the meantime, Peter Jennings' film crew and the nightly news shows up on OPT's doorstep to cover this story about this telescope and the suicide of Heaven's Gate. And at Meade Instruments, we're now getting phone calls from across the country looking for the death scope, as it was being called, because you know, people wanted to know where it was, what had happened to it, because OPT didn't have it, okay? And so some unknown amateur astronomer today has Heaven's Gate's 10-inch LX200. Hopefully it's still working, hopefully it's still doing what it's supposed to do, but it was a very strange time. You know, so there is a dark side sometimes to discovery and amateur astronomy and stuff. And so, you know, it's best to keep to the science as much as possible, right? Not that we don't believe, most amateur astronomers don't believe that there isn't life all over the universe, which there, you know, I'm one of those that believe that there's life all over the universe. But I am a UFO skeptic, and so it's.
I think I said this to you already, Scott. I think I said I wouldn't be surprised if Farah ended up with it.
It may be. So that's anyway. That is one of the stranger stories, true stories that I have about this hobby, and one of the reasons that I put serial numbers on everything is that we do track them. It's not that I hope that something like that would ever happen again, because it was a terrible tragedy. But you know, it is one of the reasons why I put serial numbers on all our products. I do want to track it. I'd like to know who's using it. And you know, we have benefits to our products because we have a no fault transferable forever warranty on our products. So, and if you can't have a serial number to track that with, then it's a problem. But anyways, we're back, guys, and you know, thanks for sharing that, Simon. That's really cool images of the sun there. And how's it going out there, Gary?
Hi, Scott. I'm just going to log into the system, so if you give me a couple of seconds. I didn't know whether you wanted to have a chat with Stephen about a few things, Steve in Canada, and I will just get this logged on and sorted out, and then we're actually locked onto a target. We've got some clear skies out there for a change, which is a first for the UK.
I think we might have lost him.
Steve?
Steve posted in the chat that he had to drop off.
Ah, right, okay. Just give me a couple of seconds.
I guess that's why you guys are leaders in theoretical physics, because you never have clear skies to look at anything.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
You know what? I'll tell you one thing. This is one thing about the being in London that I don't miss is just clear skies.
Yeah.
Okay, so
while he's doing that, behind me, I never get a chance to look through a telescope when I'm doing my broadcast here. So I decided I would start looking through a microscope, and we sell microscopes, and I can share the screen with what I've got here in the telescope the microscope right now. And so let's see, we've got.
See, that's the lowly microbe is made of star stuff, just like we are.
That's right. That's right. And so what I have here right now, we have a corn stem. This is a prepared slide that we have, and it's just a lot of fun looking at this. But next time that I'm out, I'm going to have live specimens. So I'm going to prepare some diatoms and some tardigrades and some probably mixed protozoa, maybe some rotifers. It's really amazing to look at this stuff, and this is looking inwards, and you can do this rain or shine. So,
Scott, can I just ask you? Is that the infinity stereo you're using there?
I'm using a Bresser Infinity microscope.
Microcam
too.
You know, the funny thing is, though, Scott, it's kind of scary that almost looks like the sun in white light if you are like really close up into it.
Right.
That's the thing about fractal patterns. They all look the same no matter what the scale.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I got some other slides here too. And in fact, I don't know if there's anything alive in here, but I do have like some pond water. So I'm going to put a slide up there. Let me get a clean slide. That's what we can come up with here.
I see Gary feverishly working away in the background there.
Yep, I'm just setting everything up to capture what we're captured tonight. I don't know, but it will be good fun to see what we can capture and process.
There's live stuff. Let me get a focus.
There we go. I will just quickly share my screen. There, and hopefully we can see that we've got M31 starting to come in. There we go. Just need to adjust it up a little bit.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the clearest because it's running through TeamViewer to connect up. Otherwise, I've got to lose the connection on here. But it is actually working and capturing at the moment. So I'll pull one of the stills up in a minute that come in and then put that on the screen. But for a change, we're actually capturing something, which is good.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Well, who's next here?
I reckon we should go to Jerry and have a chat about the observatory.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to talk about the Mark Slade Remote Observatory?
Yeah.
I appreciate that, the opportunity to share what we're doing there a little bit. let me bring up my.
And we have a question for Terry that we'll ask after you talk about this.
Okay.
Yep.
So let me share my screen. All right, can you see that?
Sure do.
So one of the things that we do a lot of science at the Mark Slade Remote Observatory. We're a nonprofit organization. We were incorporated last year, about a year ago. MSRO Science MSRO Science Incorporated, but our website is msroscience.org, and we run we have the main station that you see here. We run on donations from a lot of loaned equipment from Explore Scientific, some donations from myself and Dr. Myron Masuda, who's the director of the observatory. We actually have 3 stations. Unfortunately, right now we've had a few failures on a couple of our stations. I just had to send this focuser out to be repaired. It's this past week, so this station is out of service right now. Some of the work that we do asteroid. I do a lot of asteroid work. Not it's if it's off and on thing, because I jump around to different things. I do asteroid work. I do exoplanet work that I just started to get into about almost 3 years ago, I guess. And also we do occultations. We have another team member, Dr. Bart Ballard, who is a retired physicist that's in our team. He does occultation work. But so I'm going to jump down here to the instrument that we currently have installed that I've done some work on and done some testing. And it's called an engineered diffuser. It's basically a way to process the starlight coming in through the scope into an image on the image plane that allows you to mitigate the effects of scintillation and tracking error, because the key thing to do in high precision measurements for exoplanets is you want to get rid of all the error in the system, which includes the noise due to sky scintillation and other things. The sky conditions cause the noise in the measurement. So you want to mitigate all that noise that you can, and this is one of the instruments that we use to do that. And so the way that it works is it looks like you're defocusing the star. It's just like, and that's a method that you can use also to get higher precision measurements of starlight. It's photometry is what it's called. So we do photometry on the stars, which measures the brightness of the star. And what you do when you're looking for changes in this brightness to do the measurement. And what the diffuser allows us to do is to do a much higher precision measurement compared to just a defocused image. And this on the left, that's what the diffused image looks like. It's look like blobby stars. It's not very pretty to look at in terms of the beautiful pictures that a lot of astronomers make with really pinpoint stars and things like that. But this is for science purposes. So we want to make as accurate a measurement of the starlight as we can. So in that way, these images are similar to the beautiful images. They're high performance imaging is what it is. So just to give you an idea of the image, what it looks like on the chip, the way it's created is typical star images create what's called a point spread function, and it's a Gaussian shape curve just like this on the right hand side. But when you use the diffuser, it creates this more stable top hat shape where it's has steep sides and it raises up and is flat on top. and it spreads the light out on more pixels, which makes the more pixels you have, the more accurate or the more precise the measurement can be, because you've got more sensors making the measurement, and you're averaging all the errors out. Basically, is what it comes down to. So with this diffuser, we can make, and there's another view of it. That's a 3D view, and it's kind of cool the way it actually looks. If you look on the lower right and the upper left, you can see what it actually looks like on the image. But that's kind of what the profile looks like. So one of the things we observed with this is exoplanets. And here's an example of a light curve for the exoplanet HAT P16b that we observed on November 11th in 2018. And what this chart depicts is not just the light curve when the planet crosses in front of the star, it dims the light. And for example, so if you look here, this is another light curve that we did. This was the first exoplanet we ever observed at the MSRO. But you can see this is what it does. This is the planet passing in front of the star. Okay. And then when it does that, it blocks some of the light. So that's why you have this dip in the light curve. And for a Jupiter-sized planet, which this first one was that we imaged, it drops the light about 1%. Okay, so you're looking for a 1% change in the light, which is equivalent or very much close to 0.01 magnitude. Okay, so that's measuring, that's detecting a change of 0.01 magnitude. All right, now that's just for detection. So you can see how noisy the data is here on our first measurement for this exoplanet. Now jump to November of 18, and using this diffuser instrument, the scatter is much less, and the depth of this transit is about the same. It's 12. I think it's like 12 millimag. It's so 1/1000th of a magnitude is called a millimag. So the depth of this one is about 12 millimag, or 1.2%. Is how much the light dimmed, 1.2%. But if you look at these individual data points, they've got these little error bars. That's the precision of the measurement. Okay, so all that's left after you've corrected for scintillation and tracking error and stuff like that, all you have left is this long-term light variation. That's this little bit of scatter, and that's what determines the precision of the measurement. So our measurement precision on this, typically with the previous one, this is about a precision of about 10, 11 millimag, okay, which is about the same as the depth. When we're using the diffuser, the precision is down to this one. The total precision was 2.7 millimag, or two 1,000ths of a magnitude. Three 1,000ths of a magnitude is the precision of this measurement, and that's professional level measurement is what that is, with a 6.5-inch scope.
Wow.
And so the shot noise precision, which is what the diffuser really mitigates, is the shot noise. It's 1 millimag RMS noise. 1/1000th of a magnitude noise, and then the total with the residual scintillation and the shot noise is 2.7. So that gives you an idea of what's possible. So on this, when we did this exoplanet, we were able to take this light curve and use it in the modeling tool that we use AstroImageJ as our processing software. It's got a modeling tool that allows us to model this planet in terms of the size of the planet and the inclination, the orbital inclination. So the catalog value for HAT P16b is on the left-hand side, and then our measured values are on the right-hand side. So you can see we we were pretty good in our measurements. The other thing, the big thing that they like to see is the transit midpoint time. That keeps track of the orbital period, and then also the transit length. Those things are very precise also. So we had a very good measurement there.
Jerry, someone wants to know here, isn't the point spread function what bookies use in Las Vegas?
Well, I guess so. I haven't heard that term used in that context, but that's kind of interesting.
Function, but they aren't the point spread. That's right.
The point spread. That's right. It's they're looking at the point spread, right?
Mm-hmm. No, but this was amazing. Now, is this the same? This is the same measurement we did live?
Yes, yes, exactly.
So Jerry had just put all this stuff together, and I said, Jerry, we got to do a live show about this. This is one of the early live programs that we did, and so he was just supposed to just do a demonstration. Okay, it ended up that his first try, okay, and using this diffuser, and his first try of aiming this thing at a candidate, which was HAP P16b, they did detect this exoplanet, and so it was like your first time up at bat and you hit a home run, So
yeah, the data off the I mean, I had been working with this diffuser for a while, testing it, but this was the first time that we had done a good full transit on a planet.
Question for you, Jerry. How do you normalize the system noise, temperature, etc.?
So in terms of the instruments themselves, the camera is temperature controlled. We set that, and we do calibration frames to get rid of that noise. We get rid of the readout and the dark current noise, and flat field it also. Now there's been some talk, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but depending on how many calibration, how you take your calibration data, sometimes if you add calibration, or if you do calibration of this data, it actually adds more noise into the measurement as opposed to taking it out. Calibration frames typically are used to make things look good. Okay. Now they do also calibrate the data set, especially the flat field. That normalizes the gain across all the pixels. So if you're taking very precise numbers on that, the flat field would make sense. In terms of the bias and the dark, I've heard discussions that for exoplanet measurements, they could be problematic in adding more noise into the system as opposed to less noise. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing with the noise is not the actual temperature of the instruments or anything that. The biggest thing is the sky and the shot noise of the measurement, because we're not just gathering, typically on a defocused star, you'll gather 500,000 photons, let's say, to make the measurement. On the diffuser, we're spreading the light out much more, and we're taking longer exposures where we're gathering 10 million, 20 million photons to do the measurement, where the shot noise, if you're familiar with that term, is equal to the square root of the number of photons that you gather. Or another way to put it, the signal to noise ratio for the measurement is equal to the square root of the number of photons that you're gathering. So for example, a 1 million, if you're gathering 1 million photons, that's equal to a signal noise ratio of around 1 millimag. Okay. So we get the shot noise down that far, but there's other residual errors that actually takes more than 1 million photons. We try to gather 5 or 10 million photons to do the measurement to get the noise down at that level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jerry, can I ask a quick question
Sure.
here? I'm often asked about how people start off with doing this, and what the most important criteria for a camera would be. How would you like to comment on bit rates of converters, because they're quite crucial to accurate measurement, aren't they?
That's nice, Karen, because that's exactly one of the questions from the audience as well.
Yeah.
So what?
It's using.
So say that again about the bit rates.
Well, just would you like to comment on how bit rate affects accuracy of measurement, because this is an important factor in astrometric collection, isn't it?
Yeah. So the data that you're gathering, there's in terms of the exposure, how fast you're taking the exposures and how long the exposures are will affect your readout noise. And I'm not sure if bit rate. I'm not exactly sure what's meant by bit rate, but in terms of noise, if you take a high K